Hola, muy buenos días a
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yolanda Martinez. I'm the head of the Digital Government Unit for the Ministry for Public Administration. It is my pleasure to be here with you today in this fourth day of activities of the Internet Governance Forum 2016. This is a space for dialogue to share ideas, and it is very important that we all understand what everybody is sharing with us. Therefore, I would like to invite you to use the interpretation services available for all of you, and you could get a headset at the foyer. I would like to remind you that all sessions are available through the YouTube channel, and please help us to disseminate the link to this forum. I would like to invite you to participate actively throughout the sessions. All ideas, your concerns, and thoughts contribute to this discussion, specifically to generate innovative solutions, to connect with stakeholders and projects with whom you can create alliances to fill the gaps, especially in a digital world, and no one should be left behind of the benefits of the ITC-based society. This morning, we will participate in an informational and substantive dialogue on the future of Internet governance. In 2003, while the first phase of WISES was held in Geneva, only 11% of the world's population had Internet access. During this session, international leaders acknowledged the need to have better understanding of Internet governance. In 2006, the first governance forum on the Internet was held in Athens. Internet had 1 billion users back then. Today, we have more than 3 billion people who can follow the IGF activities online. Due to the Internet, Internet access is growing worldwide. It is transforming how governments, business, and citizens interact, and it also offers new ways to face the challenges presented by development. We are part of the knowledge society, but a lot of people are still unconnected. The United Nations have included universal access to the Internet in the 2030 Sustainable Agenda for Development, which has a collective objective to eliminate all forms of poverty, to promote health and education, to fight inequalities, and to fight climate change. Internet offers job opportunities. It stimulates economic development. It creates quality jobs. It improves productivity. It enables people to make their own decisions and also helps them to participate in governance. Internet has become a common asset. All involved actors, as well as all of those involved in the future of the Internet, should have an opinion in terms of how they are governed. IGF has become, throughout the years, in a platform, an important and inclusive platform to promote dialogue and to give an answer to all the challenges that Internet governance entails. Welcome once again to the Future of the Internet session. I would like to thank you for joining us this morning in the Shaping the Future of the Internet Governance session, and I would like to recognize our distinguished speakers for joining us, and we expect to hear from all remote participants. Now I have the pleasure to introduce our moderators. Harmut Glasser, Executive Secretary of the Brazilian Board from Brazil, and a great support in the transfers process to organize this IGF. Harmut, thank you very much, and please join me in welcoming Harmut Glasser, please. Also with us, supporting us by co-moderating the main session, Thiago Tavares, founder and president of SaferNet Brazil, and Natalia Chaduk Patricia, technical advisor of CGI Brazil. The floor is yours. The session is open. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Yolanda.
Thank you very much, Yolanda.
Much, Madam Chair, for this opportunity to have the floor to say some background words to introduce this main session. Last year, during the IGF in João Pessoa, the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee, CGI-BR, and Internet Society, ISOC, launched together an initiative called LAC Youth at IGF, and selected 127 Latin American youths for a capacity building program on Internet governance issues. After a rigorous selection process, 73 youths were selected to travel to João Pessoa and attend the IGF for the first time. The huge participation of the young people during the last IGF was an innovation widely recognized by all stakeholders. This year, the Youth at IGF program became global. CGIBR and ISOC received together more than 800 applications from all over the world. After a very hard selection process, 79 youths from 27 different countries are here at this IGF in this beautiful and historical city of Guadalajara, Mexico, a country where 40% of the population is below 26 years old. This main session was designed to provoke a conversation between different generations about the state of art of the Internet ecosystem, exploring the different generational perspectives of pioneers and youngsters, newcomers, and young leaders will have the opportunity to discuss with the historical Internet actors 5 policy questions, as detailed on the screen. Pioneers represented all continents and stakeholders groups. Young leaders also come from all continents. Each question will be addressed by one pioneer and one young leader. The 2 generations will have the opportunity to debate some of the Internet governance challenges and share ideas on policy issues that affect 25% of the Internet users worldwide that are under 25 years old, especially regarding youth engagement on Internet governance ecosystem and the role of the future generations. I'm absolutely convinced, Madam Chair, that the energy, the enthusiasm, and the fresh ideas of the young people mixed with the experience, leadership, and deep wisdom of the invited pioneers will make this main session an unforgettable moment for all of us. Thank you very much.
In short words, the goals of this panel is to enable the dialogue between younger generations, newcomers, and historical Internet stakeholders. And point 2, foster the conversation between different generations on Internet governance, challenges, and the state of art of the Internet ecosystem, proposing a future agenda for this environment. We will start with 5 couples of a pioneer and a young person. Every one of them will receive 1 question, and they will have 10 minutes together to discuss between them, and later we will ask the audience for participation. I will start with number 1. Windsurf is one of the fathers of the Internet, sharing his title with TCP/IP co-inventor Rob Kahn. Among other things, Surf was manager for the United States Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, known as DARPA, funding various groups to develop TCP/IP technology. He was instrumental in the funding and formation of ICANN, where he served as chairman of the board of directors. Currently, he works as Google's vice president and chief internet evangelist. And together with him, we will have Grace Abu Hamad. She is from the government. Grace has got started in the field of public policy manager at ICANN, where she staffed the community working groups for the IANA stewardship transition and the enhancing ICANN accountability process. Currently, she works on emerging technologies at the U.S. Department of Commerce, National Telecommunication and Information Administration, NTIA. She is 24 years old. Please, Wind and Grace, you can start as you agreed to do it.
Thank you, Hartmut.
10 minutes together.
Thank you. So We are going to disrupt the main session structure, and we are not going to do 5 minutes of prepared remarks by speaker. We're going to have a conversation, and we're going to provoke a conversation amongst the youth and the pioneers. So,
Let me interrupt. The question that you need to discuss is what lessons learned by pioneers and youngsters in their historic involvement with internet governance and relevant to inform discussions between generations.
thank you, Hartmut. So, Vint, we're disrupting this session now. In your experience in internet governance, have the young people been troublemakers or have they been helpful?
Well, the real answer is that they've been troublemakers, but that's what I thought I was. When I was young once. I know you probably don't believe that, but in fact, the people who made the internet happen were young people way back then. And the whole idea was to try something new, something different. The thing that I love about young people is they're often too young to know you can't do that. And so they go out and they do it. And that's the value of having young people be part of this environment. That's why it's so valuable to have people like Grace and the rest of you here participating in the IGF.
So, Vint, one of the things that I studied history in school, and I was very excited when I found out that the internet was what you consider living history, right? It's something that has been invented in our lifetime and that you can talk to the people who invented it. And so one of the big lessons I learned in getting involved in internet governance was that you have to know the history and it's something accessible and you can learn from the history in this in these governance processes. What are some of the, for you, what were some of the big inflection points in the history, and how do they affect what you see as maybe future inflection points today?
Well, probably the most important inflection points come when something actually works. And so there were periods of time as the internet was evolving where we were testing our ability to connect multiple nets together. November 22nd, 1977, the first 3-network test was successful with mobile vans, satellite-based networks, and the pre-existing ARPANET. So that's a big one. The next big one, I mean, there are many, but the next big thing for me comes around 1983 when we actually turned the internet on. Then comes 1988 when I realized we have to turn this into a commercial activity so that it will be self-supporting. Otherwise, the general public will never get access to it. And my colleagues said, are you out of your mind? Why would you let the great unwashed hoi polloi have access to our sandbox? And my response was, we want them to be part of the sandbox. And so there are many other milestones that we could talk about, but probably the most important one with regard to IGF is the recent transition of ICANN from a contractual relationship with NTIA, where you work, Grace, to an independent arrangement where the multi-stakeholder model is fully in charge of the operation. So those are some big milestones, and there are some young people who are involved in making that happen.
So, Vint, one of the other things in lessons learned on the internet governance processes is that we've come up with these stakeholder categories. We have the technical community, the government, civil society, the business sector. And maybe for involving youth, these are not the best categories. We don't have very many examples of young government stakeholders who are attending conferences like these and have the ability to engage. We sometimes may be pigeonholing young people into categories too early. When I worked at ICANN, I was considered maybe technical community, and now that I work in the government, I'm considered government. And as a young person, maybe that's a normal movement, and maybe we shouldn't be asking young people to structure themselves within stakeholder groups, or should we?
So don't you like this fresh new thinking? I actually would draw attention to the Internet Engineering Task Force. First of all, you can't join. All you can do is show up. And if your ideas get traction, then they'll proceed. If they don't, they won't. Second, there are 100 working groups that are going on all at the same time in IETF. If you go to an ICANN meeting, you see a lot of activity along those lines as well, but they are often structured exactly as Grace says, around particular stakeholder groups. In the case of the IETF, you go to the working group you're interested in that you think you can contribute to. I kind of like that idea, and I would even argue that we should take your point and try some experiments. Instead of pigeonholing people into particular functions and categories, why don't we take problems and organize a multi-stakeholder discussion around the problem and see what everybody, that's what multi-stakeholderism is supposed to be about. So, having categories is a form of ontology. I hate ontology. What happens is you argue about the definition of things. I'm much more interested in solving problems. So let's try that experiment. That's our next disruption. You got another one?
So we often talk, well, you're quoted saying that the internet is a lab experiment that escaped the lab. And, I guess we have the opportunity, like I said earlier, to talk to you about the future of internet governance. Do you think that the pioneers have it right? Do you think the vision, are there times where you've questioned whether or not some of these processes that you've been involved in have gone the right way? Or could there have been another option?
Well, the egotistical answer is we got it exactly right. Everything is happening as we predicted. In fact, in about 15 minutes, well, no, I won't tell you. I'll let you be surprised. Now, in fact, we probably didn't get everything right. I'm sure we didn't. On the other hand, when you're trying something new and unpredictable, you can't be sure what's right and what's wrong. That's why IGF is so important. It's also why it's so important to have young people be part of this. Sometimes I think this is like a one-room schoolhouse, where we have all the grades in the same room, and depending on your skill in mathematics or reading or writing or something, you end up in a different group depending on your capability to contribute and to learn. I think that we shouldn't be thinking about generations at all. I think we should be thinking about this collection of people with skills and experience of various kinds, all trying to tackle different problems. We didn't get it perfect. You won't get it perfect either, but it's okay, as long as you learn from the mistakes that you make. And so there was another comment about history. You know that expression? People who don't know history are condemned to repeat it. It would be a really good idea if we make sure to document the story of IGF and the story of the internet to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes that we made before. We'll just make new ones.
Thanks, Vince. So I think one of the big points that we would like to share with the audience is the sort of the value of the historical context in these moments. But one of the other ones that I've been thinking about is how you can't necessarily have policy-neutral technologies or policy-neutral design. And one of the reasons we like the multi-stakeholder model, one of the reasons we want to get more young people involved and people across generations is because as we're designing technologies, they're infused with a certain ideology or policy, and we can't necessarily separate the two. Do you agree with that as a lesson in that sense, or do you have another perspective on that?
No, I think I agree with that. Let me give you a metaphor. It's often thought that the generals are always preparing to fight the last war when they should be trying to figure out what's the next one going to be like. I'm sorry to bring this sort of military analogy to the table, but it's very close to what you're saying. What should be happening is that we should be trying to look forward, avoid the mistakes of the past, but try to anticipate what the needs of the future will be. And the young people who are living in this environment much more intensely than old folks like me are the ones who are closest to understanding what the good and bad side effects may be. And so your insights are important because you're young.
Right, and also possibly the cross-sectoral side, right? So if you're not necessarily a coder or an engineer, you still have good insights to bring to the table as someone who is a humanist or a sociologist or an anthropologist, et cetera, right?
We haven't had any anthropologists that I know of who've been part of the IGF. Maybe we should. I think we would be an interesting group for anthropologists to study in any case.
Thank you. Yep, so Hartmut, I think our time is up soon.
Our time is up.
But we'd like to value the historical context, and we believe in sort of involving more people of across sectors, across ages, to make sure that we come up with policy designs that, or technological designs that are infused with good policy.
An open dialogue between pioneers and young leaders. Thank you, Vint. Thank you, Grace. Now let us go to question 2. Can we have the slide, please? Question 2 is, what are the perceived challenges, obstacles, and possibilities for meaningful youth engagement, participation, and impact in IG events and related initiatives? And we will have the dialogue between Henriette Esterhuizen. She is the Executive Director of the Association for Progressive Communication, known as APC, an international network of organizations working with information and communication technologies to support social justice and development. And Florian Daniel, he is a 20-year-old student from Austria, where he is working with the local community to set up youth IGFs. Before going to the university, Florian worked for Kaspersky Lab and was engaged within the InSafe network, where he still is part of the Youth Ambassador program. Please, Henriette, please, Florian. Floor is yours.
Okay, hi everybody. So I wanted to start with a rather simple possibility for good youth engagement. Just copy that from Vint. It's the possibility to shape the future, and this we're probably going to be for quite some time on planet Earth, and the internet's going to be around probably until we die. That's quite a big possibility, and that's a lot of years where we can attend IGFs and set up projects, and we can do quite a lot, and I think that's a rather easy one. And another one probably, which is a challenge, but also a possibility, is the knowledge part. So my first IGF was last year, and I thought, okay, let's go to Open Forum Icon. It was quite a little bit overwhelming. A lot of abbreviations, I couldn't follow most of the part, but now 1 year later, it seems way easier. So the challenge is get the knowledge and try to understand it, and the possibility is to get an expert in a topic, whatever you like, because there are so many different ones in quite a short time. So yeah, Henriette, maybe you want to chime in here?
Thank you, Florian. You know, Hartmut, this is very challenging. You know, some of us pioneers might still think of ourselves as being young. You know, in my country, a pioneer is someone with an ox wagon who ventured into the interior of southern Africa in the 19th century, grabbing land and cattle and causing general destruction. So, I think this is a great topic, and I think it is really actually quite challenging. I think the primary challenge is substance versus process. I think we've made great strides in bringing young people to the IGF, but I feel that still it's about getting them here rather than getting them to actually influence the process. It's almost as the whole modality is to expose them to the event, to have them, to add diversity, in some ways maybe even to make our multi-stakeholder inclusive internet governance processes look a hell of a lot better than they actually are. So I think that's the challenge, is how do we take that, bring people here that represent different views, different experiences, and keep them in the process for the longer term, make sure that their participation is about content, and give them the opportunity to learn, because as Florian just said, it's incredibly overwhelming, and there's a lot of quite arcane and specialized knowledge needed to be effective in this space. So I think we need to keep the same people in the space for long enough so they can make that journey from learning to influence. I think the other challenge is the global-local dynamic. I think if people are already, young people are already involved in some kind of local action or local activity or some social change campaign or in development, they're going to have more focus and more direction when they come to the global space, and they're likely to benefit and influence in a different way. But it can also work the other way around. Florian and I were discussing this. coming to a global space like this can actually provide the inspiration, the impetus then for someone to go back home and do something interesting. So I think that's an amazing opportunity. And then I think there's also, it overlaps with what I said about substance, but it's also about politics. I think it's important that we don't depoliticize the participation of young people in the IGF. You know, internet governance, it's about policy. It's about different interest groups coming into a policy forum, trying to learn and dialogue, obviously, but also trying to influence outcomes and trends in ways that will serve their sectoral interests. So business does not like to be regulated. Business people will participate in a place like this to try and minimize the legitimacy of increasing regulation. So I think it's important for young people to be aware of that and to be aware of those trends and try and analyze and understand them and assume positions on them as well. So I find that sometimes some of the programs that brings young people to the IGF, they're very generic. They encourage, they orient them towards the content and the topics of the IGF, but not necessarily to the politics and the potential conflicts and interest differences in the IGF.
So I can totally agree with all the points, and maybe I can start here with the programs that you mentioned. So I don't know if somebody has an overview how many different youth at IGF projects there are right now, and how many youth participants we have from the different projects right here in the room. Certainly more than one or two. And so for the programs, I think it's really essential to make an impact, because it doesn't make sense to use a lot of resources, money, time, and also the people who need to organize all that stuff and coordinate, and then bring a couple of young people to an IGF, which is a one-time event for 1 year. And yeah, the young people are there, but they're more like a placeholder. So as we heard before, yeah, it looks all very nice, but it doesn't make an impact. So for a project to be really successful, you would have to make the clear goal that the young people get involved into the process, but then switch from the process orientation to the content-based impact. So they really pick a topic where they want to live in, and they slowly get an expert in it. So with the programs also, there goes another important part. It's really about creating a better infrastructure, I would call it. So I don't know how many of you know the YCIG, Youth Coalition on Internet Governance. It's a mailing list and a rather small group for young people to exchange views and to work together on projects. All the other stakeholders, or all stakeholders, usually have quite a big mailing list and a lot of events and stuff that you can do. But for young people to get involved there is oftentimes quite complex. So it helps for young people to have a starting point, for example, the YCIG, where the content is also orientated to suit people who don't know all the abbreviations. So where there is a document that explains what CCWG and all that stuff means. But that's also something that young people have to do for young people, because I don't think it's the job of the other stakeholders to create that. I think it should be young people who already know their stuff, created for other young people who don't know their stuff yet.
Thanks, Florian. So maybe we need to also wind down. I think that the challenge of dealing with acronyms is an intergenerational, intersectoral challenge. I mean, Vint and Grace ended up their input on talking about intergenerational relationships, and I agree completely. I think that's the real power of bringing younger people to the IGF. I think it's not about being here as a young person with other young people only. It's about being here as a thinker, or as an activist, or an entrepreneur, or a young civil servant, and about trying to discover what is your agenda, what is it that you want to achieve, what do you want to change, and then finding other people that you can engage with on that journey. And they'll come in all shapes and sizes, from north, south, all ages. And I think we mustn't take away that unintended consequences, you know, the dangerous, the risky, the unpredictable journey from young people in how we facilitate their participation in our spaces.
Okay, I have I have some points here written. I did some preparations, at least a little bit, and I have another point there which I actually want to mention, and it's co-management. As as I know, Ephraim is the youngest member at the MAG right now in history. I'm sitting somewhere over there, I think. Yeah, over there. So that's also something quite important. It's not only about getting invited to a panel and talk there. It's also about being part of the organization, because you need to evolve around the job. You need to get started. You need to have guidance as a young person. But then as soon as you're ready, you can manage it your own. But then you already should take another young people who don't know how to organize projects. And that's also something that knowledge can be passed on to younger generations, because it would be quite a waste if we wouldn't do that. So I see we have like 50 seconds left. Maybe you want to do a closing remark.
Yes, maybe also something I thought of earlier. I think a lot of it relates to the point about history that Vint had made. I think a benefit of getting people involved in this space early on, at the beginning of their careers, is that there's this capacity to learn and then to apply learning. And I think that is immensely valuable. I think there's a lot of discontinuity, particularly among government. Government officials often change, I think, far too quickly. They just kind of begin to get it, and then they leave. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity as a community for us to have people that are in this community, that stay with it, that learn, that analyze, and understand it from a broader and more diverse perspective, and that can then apply that in the policy-making process over the longer term.
Thank you. I'd like to make a small reference to Vint's observation in relation to maintain the history of the internet. I have white hairs and he has a white beard, so we need some help because the history is running. But I can tell you that we have a project and the name is Friends of the IGF. I don't know the exact reason, but CGIBR, we take over this project after some consideration, and we try to put together every workshop of all the former IGFs that we have in the past. All main sessions, all material that is available will be in one archive that will be on a platform available for everyone. So, Vint, no concern, we will have the history, okay? Thank you. An open dialogue between pioneers and young leaders. Question number 3. What are the desired and needed modes of documenting the historic record to better inform technical and policy decisions in the future? Both who will be discussing, will be in dialogue, will be Professor Hiroshi Hisaki. He is professor in the Graduate School of Information Science and Technology at the University of Tokyo, and an executive director of IPv6 Promotion Council, vice chair of the JPNIC, that is the Japan Network Information Center, and chair of IPv6 Ready Logo program, run by the IPv6 Forum. In '87, he joined the Research and Development Center, Toshiba Corporation, where he engaged in the research of ATM systems. He has proposed the CSR architecture, which is one of the origin of the multi-protocol label switching to the ITF and to the ATM forum. And with him, we will have Ephraim Kenyanito, is a legal researcher, policy analyst working on the connection between African ICT and media law, human rights and intellectual property rights, and international development. Based in Nairobi, Kenya, he has been working on the Sub-Saharan Africa policy as a Sub-Saharan Africa policy analyst on accessnow.org. And he's also an affiliate of the Internet Policy Observatory, IPO, at the Annenberg School of Communication from the University of Pennsylvania. He's a member of the UN Secretary General's Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group on Internet Governance, among other roles. Please, Professor Hiroshi, please, Ephraim, start your dialogue.
Thank you for this. It's an honor to be in this panel with really great people that I look up to. Building onto the point that Vinstaff had mentioned about documenting the history. This is something we want to address with our professor here. Hartmut has mentioned about the Friends of IGF. That's a good project that we need to continue supporting. And that's my icebreaker. I will allow Professor Hiroshi to speak.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for invitation. I'm a professor of the university. So I have a privilege to talk with the younger people as a daily work. That's a really privilege indeed. They gave me a very native or strange, sometimes odd question or sexy question. That's always my source of the new idea or new, challenges. So I really want to work with the student or younger generations. They provide me very strange or sometimes naive question. That's always hard to give answer. If that's a very detailed, technical, or a question, that's going to be easy to answer. Though when that's a naive question, that's always very tough. And also, in order to work with them, the first step is capability building of them. Say about, say, 6 months or so after the graduation, then they are not a student anymore. They are our colleague, or collaborators. So then the very interesting, very sexy output we can make. So that would be, the direction we want to create a kind of document looking for the future, how we should do, what the direction, what the shape in the future. And also, at the session of the cybersecurity thing, because of this, a major stakeholder, a lot of persons coming together, there's no common language, common terminologies, or common, issues we want to say, we want to discuss. So that is same as student, same as younger generations. So you may want to have shared common language, very simple document based on the past experiment. For example, when I talk with, Master Bin Cerf, he's a kind of, Master Yoda in the Star Wars. So any question he gave us, they're very, quick, very good question and answer. So that process would be very interesting to making the documentation, not only about the history of the document, but also that including essence of the, the past or history, that based on that, then the student or younger generation could realize the meaning of that. That is the quite important direction when we have the documentation. For example, I may introduce my Bible words example, which is the Japanese very old great person. Economy with ethics moral is sin or crime. Ethics moral without economy is just silly talk. That's the same as the internet. Implementation without theory is trouble. Theory without implementation is silly talk. That always internet is respecting. And then, thank you. This is the slide I want to share with him. Actually, he completely agreed with the point. This is the slide made by the Jumrai. That is yet another my master, working with long time in Japan. So this is saying that the 90% of the internet or digital economy is supported by the internet infrastructure. Top on that, now we have a lot of, say, fintech, IoT, big data, or artificial intelligence. Those new sexy applications can run over the internet. In other words, without internet, they never work. So we really respecting those infrastructure at the beginning. You or we making those infrastructure. That is the we want to share. I actually spontaneously he agreed with this. This is a quite important thing. Then based on that, we learn history, how Vint or the other person making an infrastructure. In the future, you will made. Could you go into the next slide? That is yet another thing, sorry, and it's bottoms up, yet another meaning of bottoms up. Bottoms up, basically the other meaning of the top down. This is, I already shared with Jim, bottoms up meaning important thing is end users, or societies, or engineers, or the operators of these service providers. The leaders is supporting them. So that is yet another thing, why the IETF or Internet is respecting engineers. As Vince said, he didn't say anything now at the IETF. He is supporting them. So that is the long history of the Internet. Probably that would be a very core part of the Internet.
Just building onto that about the bottoms-up approach, this is now where we as young people request and appreciate the support from the older generation with their support. For example, building on movements such as Andre had mentioned about mentorship, not just being there, and this documentation of the historic record shouldn't just be, it should involve these young people who are being mentored. For example, I'd like to give a shout out, for example, to a mentorship program under the ICANN mentorship program. They have this, you're paired with a pioneer in the ICANN community and you follow them around for that 1 week and you learn a lot. That's how the kind of building historic record, and after that you write reports, and these reports are curated and they serve as a future for reference for people to learn in the future from our successes and our failures and our experiences from this. To summarize my points in this question, what are the desired and needed modes of documenting the historic record to better inform technical and policy discussions in the future? One key thing, building the capacity of these young people so that they are involved in documenting this history. This can, for example, work with processes such as the ICANN Wiki, those kind of collaborative, such that people feel involved documenting their own history. That's why we have Wikipedia, we have people curating content and for future records. And building onto the work of the Friends of IGF, this kind of initiatives, they are greatly encouraged and need to be supported so that young people getting into this space who are new can learn and see what has happened, what have been the politics, and how to be involved. Something else, just to mention, over the last 2 years, being on the MAG with Bianca Ho and Ida, as among the young people there, working on, for example, the IGF ABCs, which is a website to introduce young people to the basics of IGF, the acronyms, and we can't fully document all that, but these are some of the ways in which we're trying to document the history, and over time you can maybe see acronyms evolving or words not being used anymore because the policy discussions have changed. For example, let me give you an example from my daily work, zero rating. 5 years ago, that term wasn't in any IGF transcripts going through the records. But over the last 2 years, that has been there. So documenting these kind of processes so that people can know this is what happened, this is how to be involved is important and is highly encouraged. And we would encourage sustained effort to build capacity of young people for them to be involved in the process of making and documenting their own history in this process.
And also, you be able to sharing those ideas online. That's completely different from the past 10 years. Yeah. So that's very productive, interactive discussion can be done online, of course, without the face-to-face meeting. That is your age, already experienced. So I always, excused by my students, Professor, you cannot use network. Yeah, that is only the new age can do, the new way of collaboration with us.
Thank you, Professor Hiroshi Esaki. Thank you, Ephraim. Let's go to question number 4. Can we have the slide? Question number 4 is, what are the desirable modalities of capacity development for the empowerment of future generations to join internet governance discussions and policy-making process on an equal footing with senior stakeholders? And the dialogue will be between Raúl Echeverría. Raúl Echeverría is Internet Society's Vice President of Global Engagement. Between 1998 and 2002, he was member of the board of directors of NRED, Latin American Network Forum. He was one of the founders of LACNIC, where he served as chairman of the ad hoc board between 2000 and 2002, and later as CEO between 2002 and 2014. And we will have Bianca Ho. She is the director of international relations of .Kids Foundation. She started an internet governance field as a net mission ambassador. Since attending the first IGF, she spearheaded the creation of Youth Internet Governance Forum within the Asian Pacific IGF. She currently serves at the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, the MEC, advocating for enabling youth. She is 26 years old. Raúl, Bianca, the floor is yours.
I love how I exposed my age right there. You know, it's a dear issue to every woman, but I'm glad I still have that chance to say, oh, I'm under 30 and I feel like a young person right here. So this is a dear issue to my heart. I've been starting my IGF involvement since 19. This is my 6th IGF, although, you know, I sound younger. But yeah, like I've been to quite a few IGFs, and part of what I do and what I feel the best and most important to me is to empower others. And I would like to share a Facebook post by a girl called Jian. She's very active here. And actually, we met a few years ago at the Bali IGF. And she was very reserved. She's Filipino in Hong Kong, which means she's minority. She doesn't really like to speak up then. But now, today, she is part of the Youth at IGF program, which I thought it was an amazing initiative to enable people not only from the Latin America region, also from other parts of the region who are really active in internet governance to participate. So, you know, she posted this picture of us on Facebook at the Facebook event that happened a few days ago, and she said, you know, I didn't know what I did, but she said I helped her to be who she is today. So I think that's really important for, you know, pioneers, or, you know, myself, I'll call myself an older IGF attendee, to do that, you know, because that is part of our community. That's how we bring new people, new voices to this, and how they also feel empowered to talk about the internet. And part of what I think is really important is the equal footing in this question, because young people often feel like they don't have the authority. So for example, for the IGF ABC, we literally just had a couple people sat together, thought that was important, and then we pulled it off in 1 week. And, you know, we didn't need official approval from anyone, but, you know, we post on the internet, available for anyone to contribute. And right now, it's still a living document. So last year was the first year. This year, we had Michael, who was really helpful on doing the entire revamp and adding more to the IGF ABC. So it's a living process. So, you know, with that, I would like to talk about, you know, what are the problems I have faced so far attending IGF when I first started, and I would like to ask Rahul how he had kind of like overcame that process and became a pioneer. So one of the things that I struggled earlier was the lack of information on topic, and I totally agree with Henriette where she said, you know, for youth participation, it was quite generic. So I wanted to ask for Rahul and how he kind of came to understand a particular topic and how he expanded that and, you know, became much more involved with that. I thought that would be useful for young people here to kind of know what are the next steps, how do we engage going forward.
Thank you, Bianca. I'm sorry because my voice is not as good as it was last Monday. But I think that's you mentioned the youth programs that we have, the one that we run with the Internet Society and partners like CGI Brazil and the government of Mexico this year. There are others very good in Asia too. And I think that's the approach is very good because we we are not just bringing people to IGF. We bring the people, but we offer a course of 4 weeks before that. We mentor the participants. In fact, I'm a mentor of one of the participants this year. This is something that I like very much. It's one of the things that I do that I enjoy more. I think this is a way to help very much. It's not just dropping the youth in the middle of the meeting. It's really supporting them to have a meaningful participation. Obviously, the information that we need is much more, is huge. But some projects like the one that were mentioned are before, but I think that's the right way, is just to work together in order to learn about all the things that are needed for being engaged. But one of the things that I will put 2 questions for you, because I think that one of the interesting things in these experiments is that engaging youth is not about engaging the people that is young today. It's about creating virtuous cycles. And so I think that you have also a huge responsibility, because as been said before, so we all were young. And to be honest, I never realized it when I stopped being young. And this is a key thing, because you have to, and you do that, but as how we do as a community, that we continue engaging and involving the youth that are coming behind us. The second point is that I think that this is very boring for youth, to be honest. So I think that the efforts that we are doing are very good, but are not enough, because we are not asking the youth how they would like to be engaged, what would be the format of the meetings or the discussions. So we are inviting the youth to be part of our world about the status quo, and it's not that what we should expect. Somebody say, I think that it wasn't read before, that is how to really get a big influence from them, and this is really an important point. In May, in this year, during the WISIS Forum in Geneva, there was a panel that's where 4 senior people, senior men, and that's like me, for example, and 1 young lady. And when I look to the faces of the guys, and they were not feeling comfortable. so I think that this is something that we have to work all together, how we really create avenues, but for the participation of youth, but where everybody feel equally comfortable.
Thanks for the great comments, Rahul. So to answer your question, how do we kind of pass on this knowledge to other people? This is an open call for anyone who's here. You don't really need to be an expert in a particular area, because I think everyone knows something better. I know youth engagement, and then probably you know better on net neutrality or other topics, which I think is more interesting for youth, and they had a different point of view per se, and then it's very valuable to listen to them. And of which, I think it's all stakeholders. Anyone can, just as an example, I go to lunch break, and I often see youth sitting with youth, and then like pioneers sitting with pioneers, and they probably have specific topics that they want to discuss. And I agree, IGF is a very open venue, but I would appreciate, what if, you say, walk to the next table and say hi, and, start engaging with them, and just, sit together. I'm sure they will bring new perspective to what you're discussing, or particular youth is interested in different topics, which helps build the topic understanding of the youth. And, by interacting with them, like Rahul, like all the one who are on the panel here, I've learned a lot about other topics that I don't know. And that also opens up, because they're so new and malleable. As Grace has mentioned, they might be working in your field in the future, and that's quite important. So the other thing that I thought was important is to make them feel that their voice is valued. So, for the workshop proposers or moderators, I've heard that there are particular workshops who didn't allow youth to speak up. And, I would very much, this is a very saddening thing, but I would very much hope that anyone who's at the workshop would say, oh, I saw youth is putting up their hands, let them speak. And I think that it's important because the fact that they can speak and they know, and having open questions and guiding them towards what they need, because oftentimes they don't have a very good idea on what they should expect or how they should participate, but they have a lot of great ideas in their minds. They're very innovative. They can get their hands dirty and get it going. So final point is on the online participation that I think is important, because not every youth have the opportunity to come. And I think by respecting the remote participants, and sometimes there's an awkward silence in the room when we're waiting them to speak, but that's fine. I think that's also part of them learning how to speak, and they're probably more comfortable chatting and respecting chat logs, which are in the WebEx room, and I think that is also very important. So with time running out, Raul, I'll ask you to make a final point on this.
My only ask for you all is that don't try to be politically correct here. We need more disruption because we have to deal with disruptive things. So come, I'm very glad to see that all of you are members of the MAG. We need that energy in the MAG to be ensuring that we receive those energies. But don't try to behave like the rest of us. Try to bring your expertise, your young perspective, and don't forget the other people, the other youth that is not there. This is what's really important. You have 10 seconds.
Again, I want to thank you all for coming to this main session. I think it's a significant improvement from first year I'm in MAG, and second year I already see a MAG panel on youth, which is a significant improvement. So I would like to congratulate all the workshop organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you, Bianca. Only to remember, open dialogue between pioneers and young leaders. And we don't finish the discussion here. It's only the beginning of a discussion, and we are very happy to see that the dialogue is going on. Question number 5, please, on the screen. What sorts of synergies between different generations are necessary to enable an inclusive internet as a means for sustainable growth and development around the world? And the dialogue will be between Stefano Trampi. He was the administrator of the Italy CCTLD since its inception in 1987 until 1999. Then he was the delegate for Italy in the GEC. GEC is the advisory committee, the governmental advisory committee of ICANN from 1999 to 2014. He brought the CNUCE Institute among the founders of the Internet Society, ISOC, 92 in Italy, and is the chairman of the Italian chapter of the Internet Society. Currently, he is a member of the promoting committee of IGF in Italy. And he will have a dialogue with Kimberly Anastasio, is a master student in political science at the University of Brasilia in Brazil. She was part of the second class of the TGI, the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee Internet Governance School that we organize every year. She is a member of the Youth Observatory and is affiliated to the Beta Institute of Internet and Democracy. She also is very young, only 21 years. The floor is yours. Stefano and Kimberly, please.
Okay, thanks. I'm so excited to start this conversation with Kimberly that in Italy we consider these people digital natives. And so people that when started to enter into the world, internet was already something very relevant, while for us, for the pioneers, we have to invent everything, and then it is very important to exchange views with the young generations in order to let them to understand how we arrived at this point now. And on the 30th April of this year, we had an important anniversary in Italy. That was the 30th anniversary of the first connection via satellite with the internet. And the journalist asked me, you have been a pioneer. You understood at the time what was happening and what were the perspectives. I said no, because at the time was simply an effort to provide the instrument to the researchers and to the people of academia to collaborate better in their work and to help the collaboration, international collaborations. And I realized that I have been a pioneer of some weight when in 95 I followed a project of the G7 and it was a pilot project for information society. And this was the change, the really important change, because from this point on, internet as a network was quite less important than the information, than all that was connected to the information. So now I want to ask Kimberly something about how he sees and how much the evolution of the internet in all the sector of the community and also the multidisciplinary sector that is so important, including collaboration with industry, collaboration with lawyers, collaboration with sociologists, and so on.
So hey all, hey Stefano, I'm glad to be here. And I guess that overall during this panel we've been seeing that there are many synergies between generations. And as you said, you didn't know exactly what you were doing back when you were young. And I guess many of us here from the youth, we don't know either. But still we are here. And I guess that's happened. I guess it is important for us to talk about synergies because us from the youth, it's very common for us to stress the differences we have between generations. And I guess this happens because we precisely have to identify who we are and begin to recognize as a group. And this is already very difficult because, as a friend of mine says, Louise says, we represent one youth among many others, so it's quite difficult for us to state exactly what we are. And personally, as you were saying, last year I had no idea I'd be here, and I did not thought I would be working in an organization dealing with internet issues, an issue that I really like. I didn't know I would continue to be welcomed in this environment, and well, here I am. So I see a pattern here since the pioneers said the same, you stated the same. And I guess the difference then seems to be that not only the experience of being young is different, but our whole experience and our perspectives are different. I don't know how you actually feel about it, about the place you are today compared to the one you were in the beginning. Maybe you could talk a bit about it later. But for my part, what I think we need to understand here is where we are and what are our perspectives. Because one thing that caught my attention once I entered the internet governance environment was how easily I could talk to people and that people told me were very, very important. So yes, during the last IGF, I took quite a lot of photos with Windsurf, even though I still wasn't that sure about what exactly he had created. I just knew he was very important. And but as the year followed, I started to see that the internet government environment actually welcomed us. But I also saw that this doesn't mean exactly that everything happened easily or that we are now completely integrated. So right now, I think we can follow the path of many brilliant people like you and Windsurf and so on. We may exchange ideas with you and build collaborative the internet governance environment. But there is one thing I think we got as youth have in mind, that is we as youth have identified what is wrong in many internet governance spheres. We talk about it, and I guess the challenge for us right now is not to conform to that. If we see something we disagree regarding the way the things work here, our objective has to be to change it, not reproducing hierarchical discourses, power relations, and so on, things we discuss a lot among youth. So we are receiving many opportunities to actively engage in internet government projects. Now the thing is, once we are here, we have to keep in mind the ideas we nurture when we were still outsiders, and we have to change it from the inside and re-signify spaces. So I'd like to know from you, how do you see who you were back then and how you feel right now?
Okay, two considerations. One is that the opportunities that the young people have right now are has been growing continuously, and there is a proliferation of new definition of jobs, and so this is very, very important. You have the chance, and I would say, be inventive as much as possible. And then, but I would like to give an advice in the final consideration. It is good to be specialized. We have a lot of offers, but you should also try to consider the importance of understanding the complexity of the system, and then to create this multicultural, multidisciplinary culture about the internet, so you could be able even to invent solutions for the problems that there are in the realm for the new generations.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually think this is already happening, specifically in the Brazilian youth group and the youth observatory. We are already re-signifying spaces and generating and offering the internet governance space other possibilities. For example, in the main session of yesterday, one member of the Youth Observatory talked about the Youth Like IGF. That was an initiative that I'm very much proud of. And we from the youth group have already made a statement to help the BPF on gender, writing a young women declaration. And so I guess we are providing solid content in many workshops here during this IGF. We are now, many of us are employed in internet governance organizations and maybe companies, many proposed workshops, many work speakers. So I guess we are already now trying to change the system from inside, and this is a good thing. And I guess this is also very nice because I recognize that many people from the youth group will be in important spots from different stakeholder groups in the future, and for us to be connected right now, once we are still with baby steps moving to these places, it's nice because we create this sense of community that is important. So I would conclude this moment just saying a bit about where we are as the youth. We are here together with the pioneers and other people in this environment because both of us are part of the internet governance model, and because our different perspectives matter, and because we are affecting the internet right now, each of us in our own places, I recognize that, and because we, the youth, will also be the ones to occupy the future spots as well in the future. So now I guess we have the double challenge to include more people, include more young people, to engage in the themes that we like most, but also not conforming to the failed practices we see and not being molded and embedded into what we think is not the ideal and that is not that inclusive and things like that.
Okay, very good, this intention. And so I'm from Tuscany, Italy, and I could say have a good renaissance.
Thank you. I need to correct my pronunciation, Stefano Trumpi. Before someone asked me if he's related to new elected president of US. And Kimberly, thank you very much for this dialogue. Now we will change the way that we work. We have a half hour. We have an extension of 15 minutes approved by United Nations, by the organizers. We will have interaction with you. 1 minute for one question to one of the pairs. We have half hour so we can repeat, but please, no discourse, no speeches, clear questions. You have 1 minute, and then you can answer in 1 minute. Who will start? No one. Okay, please, in the front. Mike here. Say to whom you like to have the question.
To the whole forum.
Okay.
Okay. My question is regarding coming from the civil society, and this was addressed yesterday in some workshop regarding lies in the internet. There's a big demand of definitions regarding that this year has been influenced by lies in the net. So I think the next generations need to understand how can they limit or segment the lies in the internet. That's my open question.
Thank you. Who will answer? Vint?
I would like to point out that there are also lies found in newspapers, magazines, movies, television shows, radio, and from your friends. So let's be very careful about treating the internet, especially with regard to this problem. I'm not trying to minimize anything, but let's not go overboard. There is a problem. The internet creates a kind of positive feedback loop, and it can make a lie look a lot more real just because too many people seem to be supporting it. But please be careful not to go overboard.
Thank you. Stefano, you like to comment?
Very briefly. This is a problem that is not a sin of the internet, but is something that is coming from the use of social media and the fact that the traditional media like newspapers and televisions, in any case, when they see some notice that it makes a rumor, let's say, or things like that, they repeat or they expand possibly. And this is in any case some problem that should be addressed. And I know that in Facebook they are studying something, but it will be difficult to have something accepted and that not infringe freedom of expression.
Someone from the young? You are not young. You are at the same age as myself.
That's your view, Herr.
Okay, I respect you, please.
I think people lie, and governments lie, institutions lie, companies lie. I think the amazing thing about the internet is that we can use it to help understand those lies and why those lies are being told. And we can do that as a community. There's counter speech, there's networking. So, in fact, I think rather than try to stop lying on the internet, let's use it to contextualize it, understand it, analyze it, and respond to it appropriately.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Hello, my name is Yesil Kim, and I'm from South Korea. And I'm with KISA, but I'm speaking on behalf of my own. So my question goes to all of you, both the fathers and mothers of the internet, and also to the youth IGF. So my question is, because now, as I have participated all these sessions, especially focusing on cybersecurity and all some kind of new regulations and new legal systems coming from this. So I see some kind of compartmentalization of internet is somehow going on. And I want to know if there is some kind of effort from Youth IGF and all other part of internet to make or keep this internet society open to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Who will answer? Who will comment? Professor Hiroshi and then Vint.
Yeah, as I mentioned, older people don't know the internet well. I mean, current internet well. So the younger generation knows well. and also different use the younger generation making. So that kind of practical experience input to the discussion at the IGF is really, really important to realize what is going on in the actual internet. Not only the elder senior person knows about internet. Internet is used by multiple generations, multiple users, so that is important thing. So you will welcome your practical input.
Thank you. Vint?
Sometimes I hear, old people don't know how to use the internet. And my response is, I have news for you. We invented it.
The next question there, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Sebastian. I'd like to ask this question to the youth in a personal capacity. Do you feel that your academic careers have prepared you adequately for participation in discussion on internet governance? Or is there possibility for more education, both at the high school and university level, to help youth get more active and participate in the dialogue? Thank you.
Thank you. Two of the young. Let's start with Florian and then Grace.
Okay, so right now I'm at university, but before that I did a school for software engineering 5 years. You could expect of a school for software engineering, which is also dealing with the internet quite a lot, to prepare me and to explain what internet governance is. I'm pretty sure I haven't heard the term internet governance in the 5 years of my school ever, so no, they're not preparing at all, at least in Austria, so it's very regional and school or academic based.
Grace?
Thank you. Yeah, so very good question. I think we had a little bit of this discussion in the Digital Economy and Future of Work session yesterday, but like I said at the beginning of the session, I was a history major and I specialized in Middle East genocide policy and things like that, so I was not involved in the internet stuff until after school. And I often have this conversation with Vint about what do you study if you want to go to graduate school and you want to be in this field? What do you do? What are the topics? I think the interesting thing that came out of the digital economy session yesterday is that we often are pushing people to get the technical skill, which is important, but there also is a space in this community for people who have the soft skills or who are interested in other parts of the policy. And as much as we need people to build the future of the internet and to design it, we also need people to think about how the policies are going to affect the future of the internet and think about sort of the humanist aspect as well.
Nice. Thank you. Bianca? Yeah, please.
Okay, so I have a business degree and I'm in a startup, and that has nothing to do with like internet governance. And sometimes I am in like a paradoxical mode in my mind, because here people talk about rights and all that. In startup, you talk about pace. So I don't think academic background is a good, it's obviously a good platform, but I think in university you actually learn how to learn, not too much specifically on the topic. And on university, on high school, I definitely think so. I feel like internet is affecting more parts, and also a much younger generation now, where I think, myself as youth is not really qualified as youth. We had a session today with 12-year-olds, 13 years old, which I thought, their thoughts were much more interesting than mine, and I'm already kind of considered old. So I totally agree that there's outreach in the university or high school that should be done, and actually part of my recommendation was to include that in the curriculum.
Thank you. It's a question, but before you, we have others.
I don't know why the question was only for youth, but I just wanted to point that for us, also we were not prepared, our careers didn't prepare us for doing what we did 20 years ago, but I think there is something interesting there. When you feel that your university career has not helped you enough, it's surely because you are doing something interesting.
Remote participation?
Sure. Bruna Santos from Brazil sent us here a question for Windsurf. Whenever there's a youth in any of the discussions regarding internet governance, she is often seen a newcomer and lacking specialization from the older specialists. Therefore, I would like to know if you acknowledge this situation And if yes, what will be the solution for bridging this gap between generations? And also, if there should be anything such as an exclusive stakeholder for the youth.
Windsurf asked for excuse. He has another appointment. So who likes to step in Wind's shoes? Let's start with Andriette, and then if Bianca likes to have a comment, please. Andriette, please.
I think it's really challenging.
Madame Surf.
Just don't call me the mother of the internet. I think it's very challenging because knowledge, terminology, experience, it really does matter. I mean, what I did when I was young was to take risks, and including the risk of looking stupid, and I think that's important. And I think it's also important for those that have the knowledge to be open-minded. I think this whole notion of who's an expert and who's not an expert is very flawed and very unhelpful. And in fact, when I was just saying to Grace, I've met Grace in other IG spaces, I never think of her as a young person. To me, she is somebody that's in the space, that has knowledge, that has interest, otherwise she wouldn't be here. So I think and that's important for me. I think, and that's, I suppose, why I have some discomfort with this notion of youth participation. For me, it's about participation. But I do think for those of us that are learning, and when you come into a space, however old you are, ask questions. Don't be afraid to show that you don't know.
Bianca?
So I just wanted to comment quickly. I think their youth holds a lot of hats and shouldn't be seen as an exclusive stakeholder, so they should be seen as a whole. So just that quick intervention.
Anastasia?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Kimberly, it's easier for me.
That's fine. I'd just like to quickly say that I agree very much with what Bruno said, but I also like to say that it is also true that these older specialists, experts, tend always to say the same things and defend the same arguments over and over throughout the IGFs. So maybe a way for us to break the separation is for youth to, using Raul's word, to disrupt and maybe propose new stuff during the discussions.
Raul?
Okay, Kimberly say that. This is exactly what I said before. It is true. I saw that last year in João Pessoa because it was a new experience. So there were a lot of youth going to the mic. The first two are very welcome. So, but when it's the third, the fourth that are coming to speak, I think that the temperature in the room is not exactly the same. It's, oh, who are those guys that come to tell us what we have to do? Mm-hmm. And I think that, yes, this is the answer, is don't be afraid of that. It's our work to support them, to come and say what they want to say, and give the right environment, the appropriate environment for that, and be disruptive, please. With regard to the other part of the question about the creation of a new stakeholder group, I have no idea. And this is exactly the question that we have to ask to them. And Grace already said something at the beginning on that regard. Thank you.
And Grace, please again.
Thank you. I think I like the question that the remote participant asked, because I think there is a little bit of a legitimacy issue with young people participating. I think when I started, I was lucky to have the sort of the backing of an organization. I worked for ICANN. I was there as an ICANN staff, and I think that helped me as a young person have legitimacy in the space. And I was also mentored by a lot of people in this audience, and I think, I guess, the question or the request to people in the audience is, if you do see a young person and you're questioning maybe their legitimacy in the space, especially if they're still in school or they're coming as volunteers, they're not necessarily coming always with a sort of an organization supporting them. I think it's on the older people in the community to help give them legitimacy by talking to them and engaging them in the conversation.
Yolanda.
Thank you. I think diversity adds a lot of value to that community, and that's regarding to the questions about different mayors. And I also think that this is a community, and the more youth people that we engage, the better. Some new things that everyone has been telling me is that you really like the volunteers. Well, The volunteers are for many different majors, many different universities, and part of the objective of the volunteer program is not to be just welcoming you, but also to learn. So we have a lot of volunteers helping you to get to the workshops that know the program very well, that had to take a course on internet governance because their job here is also to learn and to participate and to be aware and maybe to, apply for a youth scholarship on the next IGF.
Thank you. The next question, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, maybe already. Claudio Lucena, Paraíba State University in Brazil. We currently see and experience that many decision-making processes are of huge semantic content and hard implications for economy, politics, and democracy are being automated fully or at least partially or mostly automated. The question for the youths is, are you comfortable with that degree of automation in the decision-making processes projected to your future? And for the pioneers, would you have been comfortable if that degree of automation were projected to your future when you were pioneers?
Who starts? Pioneers, young. Stefano, you are the oldest, please.
If we are comfortable about this automation and procedure to keep decisions. No, but I don't think that this is a problem of the internet. The problem, but there are many aspects that are more in the sociological criteria and evaluation that we should do. And of course, if there are classes of people that wants to keep advantages and of any sort, then there is also the possibility of making part of movements that try to discuss about this maintaining power or things like that. This is so valid, but even for all the questions that are regarding the public administration in the countries, apart from everywhere in the world. I mean, the automation is something that gives, in any case, some resistance in those that have certain powers, and the network and the democratization may be helped by the internet. Although we found also some negative effects on the false information, as it was the first intervention we had here. But this is something that brings to study psychology, sociology, okay, even psychoanalysis.
One from the youngs, Grace.
So I'll challenge you a little bit, because I don't think the decision-making process is automated yet. If you've been into the multi-stakeholder system, it's like it's a very grueling, long process, and it's very difficult to actually say it's automated. I think one of the advantages of the multi-stakeholder decision-making model, policy-making model, right, is that it's uncomfortable. It makes people uncomfortable. And as long as you keep people uncomfortable, the decisions, the brainstorming, you get an interesting result and something that I think is very valuable. And the advantage, I guess, of being a young person in the space is that we are naturally uncomfortable. We're around all these people who have invented the internet or who've done a lot of things. We're still trying to figure out who we are, and so we're always uncomfortable. And I guess in the multi-stakeholder model, maybe that's an advantage for us because we're used to the lack of comfort.
I like to announce that we will have another half hour from 3 to 3:30. We have a half hour after lunch, so we need to stop now. I see another question is there, but please, from 3 to 3:30, we will have another half hour only for interaction, dialogue with the audience. So please, you are welcome to be back. I like to recognize that this youth program was supported not only by some entity that we mentioned, as the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee and ISOC and the government of Mexico, but we have the full support coming from companies. We have money coming from Intel, from Microsoft, from Verizon, and from Google, and they support the travel and the expenses related to bring this 100 and so on young people this time to Guadalajara, last year to João Pessoa. So we have the support of companies and other entities, and we like to thank you for the support that you are giving to this program. The panel, thank you very much for the way, and the chair has the final word, please.
Bueno, como bien lo comentó Hartmut.
As Hartmut said, the session isn't closed. The session will continue at 3 p.m. So we invite you to keep with us and invite you to participate actively. We will see you back here at 3. Thank you.